First off, if he jumps you, you're going to be called a pussy? I feel like he should be called a pussy if he's jumping you.
Yeah,
right?
That's a bad look.
Yeah, that's weak sauce. You don't sucker punch somebody. You don't fucking jump somebody. You're a bitch. You want to fight, motherfucker? I'll fight your ass. Bring your whole crew, your whole motherfucking posse. I'll lace y'all up, son. So this young man writes, a kid wants to fight me, but I don't want to fight. What should I do? I'm a freshman in high school, and I've always been a fighter. I'm 5'3", but I am a wrestler who works out, and the kid who wants to fight me is a 90-pound skater kid who I could easily beat the shit out of. He wants to fight me because he thinks I was talking shit. So this is obviously in the name of honor. But I just honestly don't want to be that fighter kid I used to be because I met a girl that makes me want to actually do good in school and behave and not get in trouble. There's videos of this kid pressing me at school, but all I said was, I'm not fighting you in school. If I don't fight him, he told people he's going to jump me and I will be called a pussy. What should I do? Kick his ass, Seabass.
I mean, yeah, it's...
What do you think, Tom?
The first thing I'm thinking to myself is, you probably did say some shit about this kid. Let's be honest. You're asking us this question, and of course, you're going to be telling it with your best self facing forward.
What's the saying? There's two sides to every story and then the truth.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
He's telling his side of the story.
Yes. So you have to ask yourself, what did you say that teed this kid up? It could have been innocuous. It could have been something that you didn't think was insulting or didn't mean to insult. But if he feels that way, it is what it is. A couple weeks ago, you brought up the study that Robert Sapolsky did about not having free will.
Mm-hmm.
I went and listened to an interview with him, and he talked more in detail about what that was. The concept is basically, depending on how you're raised, depending on your ancestry, your brain matures at different rates. And we know that young people's brains are not fully mature until approximately 25 years of age,
right,
when your prefrontal cortex reaches maturity. Sapolsky's argument is that it's actually predetermined based on your mother, based on your ancestry going back generations. So if your mother was stressed while you were in the womb, it's going to reduce the size of your prefrontal cortex and increase the size of your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for that instinctive reaction.
Oh, the old lizard brain.
Driving that fight or flight mentality. Yeah. To take that a step further, what's interesting is that that is also tied to how were your ancestors raised in terms of, were they a farming agricultural type of people or were they nomadic herders? If you're a herder, you are more inclined to fight. You're more inclined to be in a cultural honor-bound society where a simple offense verbally is enough reason to drop gloves and go at it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are not, more likely to let things kind of flow. So if you want to get really deep into it,
which I don't,
but I'm just saying, what you said to this kid, whether you meant it or not, could have come off to you as completely innocent and a throwaway comment. But to him, depending on all of these factors that we can't know, it could have incited him in a way that you didn't intend. That's where you do have to look at what you said, and without knowing how he responds to those types of things, it could have been a real triggering thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying, is that you can't say, well, I didn't say anything to this kid and now he wants to fight me, because that doesn't make sense. There's got to be a catalyst there somewhere.
Yeah.
Especially if you're saying that you used to be a fighter, this kid weighs 90 pounds, you wrestle. There's no reason other than really just pride and fighting for his own perceived honor that you'd want to walk into a situation where you know you're going to get your ass beat. So it had to be something. That's my initial thought.
Yeah, so my thought is this. It does not matter what got you here. You are in this situation and you have to deal with it. Whether you did something, you said something, or you didn't, here it is. Now you've got to deal with it. There's a couple different ways you can look at this. First off, in a situation like this, typically nobody wins. You beat his ass, you get in trouble. He beats your ass, you get your ass beat. This thing could go many different ways. Somebody could fall, hit their head, and die. There's really not a win situation unless you guys are fighting for sport, like some sort of sanctioned match. It's a no-win situation. And the only way to win is to avoid the fight. And I'm not saying that you have to become the class or the school punk or anything like that, but if you want to come out of this unscathed, you need to avoid the fight.
I agree with that. And I would say, so what? If he calls you a bitch, if he calls you whatever he calls you, like, yeah, man, whatever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's going to make him more mad that you are not reacting to his trying to instigate a fight. That's going to get him more mad. And if at the end of the day, he does jump you, lay him out, man. Don't start it. But if someone starts it, you better finish it.
That's what I was going to say. If he truly wants to fight, I don't know that you can honestly avoid it. Because if he goes, as you said, the route of jumping you, then you're in the fight whether you want to be in the fight or not. And you've got a couple different options, how far you take it or how judiciously you try to end it, how swiftly and devastatingly. But at that point, if you're getting jumped, his friends could be involved. There could be weapons. Again, this is just a no-win situation. If you think this kid has the presence of mind, and so do you, to sit down and try and handle this without some sort of physical confrontation, that would be a good way to go, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's a very difficult way to go. But if you can handle it and you can reach out to him, drop something in his DMs, whatever, just say, hey, man, I know we got a beef.
Let's squash it.
I'm sorry that you feel this way. Can you tell me what it was that I did or said to instigate this? And is there a way that we can put it to bed?
Yeah. And if not, handle your shit. It might be better to go into this on terms you can semi-control than to get blindsided if that's the route it has to go.
The other thing about reaching out and doing that, putting that out there, is now you got a record of it. So if something does happen down the line, there is a fight, you can honestly say, hey, I tried to put this away. Here's the record. Here's the evidence. Look at the date. Tried to do this amicably, and he still came after me.
Yeah.
So it's another way to CYA, cover your ass, in case that does go sideways.
The other thing, too, you guys are kids. Most of these fights are pretty mellow. Most of the ones I've seen, most of the ones I've been involved in are fairly mellow. Just go dust it up, man. Mix it up. You're a bunch of kids. You're not going to be charged as an adult for assault or something like that. Just throw a couple punches and get it done with. And then you guys might end up being best friends. Who knows?
I would also take this to your teammates. If you're a wrestler, let me tell you this. When I was lifting and I was competing at 94 kilos, there was a guy on my team that lifted at 69 kilos. A lot smaller than me. And this kid was a wrestler, and I was not. And I outweigh him by a ton. But anytime that he would be like, hey, you want to go? And he'd get into his little wrestling pose and start coming at me and like throwing
like a little spider monkey?
Yes. And I was like, get away from me. Get away. I don't want anything to do with you. Because I knew he could absolutely put me in a headlock. And yeah, man, wrestlers are nasty. I would not want to get on the wrong side of one. So, I mean, if you're worried about it being a gang up situation, talk to your boys, get the team together, let them know what's going on. So even if they're not with you all the time, if something goes down, they're going to know what's up. If you have a good standing with the guys on your team, those are the guys you want in your corner, 100%.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I know I've said, don't fight on your terms, all these things. If you can avoid it, avoid it. That is the best possible outcome. Sometimes you can avoid these situations, and sometimes you don't want to avoid these situations. But I think it's a freaking crying shame. You might disagree with me on this, but if we have an altercation, disagreement, whatever, I think it's a shame if we want to throw bones, so to speak. We can't just do that, shake hands and walk away. Nowadays, everybody has to escalate. You get your butt kicked, so you go back with a weapon. You get your butt kicked, you go back with your friends. It used to be a point in time when you could just take an ass beating, and it is what it is, and you took your lumps and you moved on. Or
you're showing your age here a bit, bud.
I know, it's bad. I just think it's sad. Handle your shit out, shake hands, and go about your way. Nobody has to lose life or limb, and this doesn't have to become a lifelong thing where you're stalking somebody and you're going to jump out of the bushes 15 years later and knife them in the throat. I don't know. I wonder sometimes how different society would be if there was still a little bit of that. Lay it on me.
You want to go?
You want to go? You want to freaking go, Sally?
No, I'm with you. My biggest fear is always, all right, what's the retaliation going to be? If I think about getting an altercation with someone, if there's a road rage incident or, you have a shouting match with someone in a parking lot over a parking space, if that guy has a gun, this could go sideways real quick.
Yeah.
There's too many nut jobs out there carrying guns that think they're in a video game, don't know how to handle it, and don't know how to handle themselves.
This is true. I know people will escalate to different levels. Look, honestly, if you guys have to fight, if it comes to it, just get it done and try and move past it. If you can avoid it and you want to, then do that. Break bread with this kid. Take him out, buy him a burger, a shake. You've got more important things to focus on. This new relationship obviously has you rethinking your approach to life. The best thing you can do is go through it and learn from it so that you can avoid similar situations in the future.
To me, the most encouraging thing that this young man said is that he doesn't want to fight. And learning that that is an acceptable option and the preferable option, as we've talked about, you're already to that point where you realize it's a lose-lose proposition. So you taking yourself out of it and saying, you know what, I don't want to do this. And at every turn, all I'm going to do is deny him the opportunity to goad me into fighting. That's all you can do. I think that's going to serve you well moving forward, whether it's due to having a girlfriend or whatever else. You just decide that I'm not going to be that person anymore. That's great. That's the step in the right direction for you, for your life, and what you want to do and who you want to be moving forward. And that's commendable. So to Will's point, I would say keep doing what you're doing. Put it off as much as you can. Unless this kid does jump you, which, again, if you are who you say you are and you know you could beat his ass, then the chances of him really jumping you and not just saying that to make himself look bigger, I think are slim. If you just continue down the path of what you're doing and saying, you know what? No, man, you call me whatever you want. That's not who I am. You're going to be the bigger man on the other side of that, and you're going to continue to build on that and move forward in life, not being that fighter kid, as you say. That's the way to do it. If you have to fight, fight and give them a reason to not fight you again and not pick on you again.
I'll throw a wild card at you. Here's a middle of the road solution. Talk to them and go to I don't know if your high school has a boxing club or some sort of martial arts club, or go to a local MMA gym. They will let the two of you get on the mat during open gym and duke it out. Gloves, pads, or not, it's up to you depending on how you want to do this. And then that can be that. You could make it a whole thing. You guys could do a social media fight.
What are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about?
If you and I walked into a
Oh, hell yes.
They just let you go at it?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I would say some would. Boxing, I couldn't say. I've been involved in martial arts for a very long time. And yeah, you could absolutely go into, let's say it's an MMA gym. A lot of times they'll have like an open mat time where you can come in. It's like a gym. You can pay a per visit fee, or you can sign up or whatever, do a trial class. And depending on the instructor and the class, they'll let you sign a waiver and come in and fight. The other option, there's these, what do they call them? Ruckus in the cage, these local fighting things where you can come in and lay people can get in the ring. You could go that route too.
Yeah, there you go. Offer that up. See if he takes the bait on that.
Yeah, and that's a semi-controlled environment. Now there are, again, it's going to depend on the martial arts school. I've trained at several different martial arts schools. Some would do this, some wouldn't. So to your point, most of them are going to make you sign a waiver. But the cool thing about that is it is a semi-controlled environment. Nothing crazy is going to happen. Nobody's going to get beat mercilessly. Somebody will step in, somebody will stop the fight, declare someone victorious over somebody else. We used to do that type of shit. People would come in and talk shit or fuck around. Like people would just walk in, like walk down the street and make stupid comments and shit and be like, you want to come in here then, smartass? Be like, yeah, and throw the pads on and lump them up and send them on their way.
Really?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember one time, I think I was close to getting my first black belt. I was like 16 or 17 at the time or something. And a couple college kids came in, and this was in a small town that there was a college in. And they came in off the street, and I can't remember exactly what they were doing, just being rowdy, or came in to talk shit and threw the door open and said something stupid. And my instructor was like, well, come on in here. And they were talking shit, and I was down at the end. This was a very long dojo. It was not very wide, but it was long. I was down on the other end practicing, and I heard him go, hey, Spike! And that's what they used to call me because I wore my hair spiked up. So it was pretty cool. Once I got my black belt, they called me Sensei Spike, right? It was super cool. So anyways, I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, you want to go? I'm like, sure, whatever. Throw your pads on. I didn't even know what these kids, what the issue was, and squared off. Went a couple rounds with them, lumped them up. I mean, not too bad. When I say lump them up, they were not lumped up, right? Figuratively lumped them up, just smacked them around a little, and then sent them on their way.
So here's one more thought on this.
Mm-hmm.
The young man who brought this question is the athlete in this situation. He works out, he's a wrestler, he's on a sports team at school, and the kid who feels attacked is in what would be considered an outcast group. Think about high school. You were a skater kid, weren't you?
Yeah, but I didn't go to high school.
Okay.
So I went to college, and that was cool in college.
All right. In high school, if you think about the skater kids, you think about the emo kids, you think about the groups that are on the periphery, they don't have a lot of social capital. And so anything that is perceived as an insult, they already look at you as fucking jock who's a douchebag. Whether you're a wrestler, a football player, baseball player, whatever. If you're on a varsity, even if you're on a JV team, there's a status that comes with that. Whether or not you want it, there's a perception that goes with that as well. And so if you're in one of these groups that is on that margin and someone is antagonizing you or perceived that you're being antagonized by the cool kids, that might be a trigger. If your intent is not to fight him and you're looking for an amicable way out of it, an apology might honestly be the best situation, because that's an olive branch that you're offering to someone who perceives himself most likely to be not as cool, doesn't have as much status. And if you're offering that in a non-condescending way, that could squash the situation right there. And that might be all he's looking for, is a little bit of validation that, hey, I'm a person too. I'm a student at this school. You're not cooler than me. And if you're perceived to be cooler than me, if you can say to him that, hey, we're on equal footing, shake hands and be done with it. I'm sorry if I offended you, if I upset you. That might be the best way out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys might become friends. You never know. He may gain a new perspective from that experience, and he may be less likely to go off half-cocked if that is in fact what he did in the future. Let's be honest. Everybody's a douchebag, right?
Yeah, we're all shitheads. That is the point. I'm a shithead. You're a shithead. We've all been down this path. I've been on both sides of this equation. I've been the outcast, peripheral kid, and I've been the varsity ball player. And I know that line exists. If you can find a way to bridge that and have a foot in both worlds, respecting both sides, that's going to put you in such a great position for the rest of high school.
Yeah, and I don't know, certainly I can't compare high school to college or anything like that. And obviously, high school is probably not the same as when you attended. I would imagine some things have changed.
You didn't go to a public high school.
Correct, yeah. But what I find interesting is, so going into college, I would be classified as like a quote-unquote skater kid. Shaggy hair, facial piercings, skated, all that. But I always got along with everybody. Jocks, skater kids. I'd be at like hanging out with the hip hop kids and freestyle battling and stuff like that. Hanging out at the International Soccer House, hanging out with those kids, like everybody. And I never had a problem. Now, I don't know if that is something that is unique to college, or if in a public high school, it would have been the same situation.
I think it's more common in college. I think those walls come down a little bit. Yeah, the pecking order is much less defined once you get out of high school.
Yeah.
But it's much more stratified in that high school environment as you're trying to figure out where you fit on that social ladder. I think a lot of these issues, to your point, if this was in college, this would be a non-issue. But at this point, if you're truly serious about not wanting to be a fighter anymore and trying to move on from that phase of your life, the opposite of that is make friends.
Yeah.
Make friends with everybody.
Yeah.
To Will's point, go hang out with some band kids. Go hang out with theater kids. You don't have to hang out with them, but if you say hi to them and you acknowledge them, that you know who they are, and it's not a negative experience for them, your social capital is going to go up tremendously. And if there's other kids on your team or on other sports teams that are giving you shit for talking to them, hey man, that's going to be the dude that's selling used cars when he's 50 and talking about how high school is the greatest days of his life. You got bigger and better things to do. Fuck that kid.
Freaking Uncle Rico, right? What do you want to bet I could throw a football over those mountains?
Yeah, and those people exist.
Yeah.
They absolutely exist. Yeah. Don't wind up like that. So that's a real easy way to filter out who the losers are going to be. And if that's not the path you want to walk, man, you have a chance right now to make an effort to start that path right now. I hope that helps. Did you have more to add?
I don't think so. I think, again, just in general, there's rarely a winner in physical conflict like this, especially as you become an adult and you move into the real world, so to speak. If you can practice and hone those skills that will allow you to avoid or control conflicts like this and manage them in a healthy way, that will serve you well your entire life. Start that practice now. You can drop this kid if you say so, sure. Do it, and then what, right? What happens? You don't grow, you don't learn. Maybe there's consequences, maybe there's not, but you could use this as an opportunity to start working on that skill that will serve you for the rest of your life on how to manage conflict appropriately with tact, intellect, and emotional intelligence, and to avoid physical conflict. I believe it's great to train your mind and your body. If you want peace, prepare for war, but avoid conflict if you can.
I have nothing to add to that, man. I think that was really well said. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I hope this is helpful for anyone who is facing a similar situation. To your point, emotional intelligence is really valuable as you move forward in life. And just like we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, if you want to hear the full conversation, it's on Spotify, it's on CastBox, it's on, find a place where you can listen to the full podcast. What we're putting on YouTube is just the answer to this question. But at the beginning of this conversation, Will and I talked about a dust-up we had this week. And despite the emotional intelligence of being in our almost 40s, 41 and 39.
Couple days, buddy. Couple days.
Yeah, I mean, it still happens. But if you're starting now and you can start to build on the emotional intelligence and be prepared to take shit and really evaluate how you want to respond without reacting, That's when you get in trouble, is when you immediately react to what is thrown at you. It sounds like you've already avoided that by not immediately just punching this kid in the mouth. So that's a huge first step.
Yeah.
And it's easier to build on that once you've done it. Like Will said, it's going to continue to carry on in life. And if you're able to start working through that stuff now and figuring out how you want to deal with it, that's going to be much easier for you down the road when you're not in an office at work. We could have gone at it.
Yeah.
And that we both would have been fired.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine we both would have been lumped up pretty good.
Yeah. That's it, man. You're on the right path. And I think your best course of action is to make peace where you can and be prepared to defend yourself if necessary. But again, I truly believe that if you reach out, there's a good chance that what this kid's looking for is validation, perhaps an apology. And if you're sincere about it, that should be the end of it.
Yeah. Well said.
All right, brother. Cool.
Until next time.
Yeah, man. Take care and catch you on the flip.
Yeah.